Our scripture reading this morning is taken from the opening chapter of the Bible. It's the first chapter of Genesis, and the biblical author is poetically describing the creation of the heavens and the earth. In this hymn-like description, the process of creation evolves over periods of time that the author refers to as days. We join this lyrical description on the sixth and final day of active creating, the day when humanity is created and given the gift of stewarding all that has been created. Listen, please, for the word of the Lord. Then God said, "Let us make humans in our image, according to our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the wild animals of the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth." So God created humans in his image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. And God blessed them and said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves upon the earth." God said, "See, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit. You shall have them for food. And to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the air, and to everything that creeps on the earth, everything that has the breath of life, I have given every green plant for food." And it was so. God saw everything that he had made, and indeed, it was very good. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. As I have mentioned, our sermon this morning asks the questions, how come science and the Bible don't match up? Now, this may or may not be a question that resonates with you, but I am guessing that the idea of questions does resonate. We are typically curious creatures and have questions, perhaps though it goes beyond our sense of curiosity into a desire for certainty. Maybe that is what motivates our questions. I chose this passage from Genesis for a couple of reasons. One reason is that I think for many people, creation is the place where they think the Bible and science don't match up. Did God really create everything in 6 days? What about the fossil evidence that things actually happened over millions of years? What do we do with this discrepancy? Is this a case of the Bible and science not matching up? I don't know about you, but when things don't make sense to me, I like asking other people how they're making sense of things. Some of these people are friends and family, but some of these people are authors and experts who spend a lot of time pondering such questions. And of course, I love simply praying. Show me, God. Would you show me, please? Seminary for me was a place of spending time with people who have spent time pondering and studying the Bible. While I was at seminary, I was regularly reminded that the Bible was not actually written in English. I hope this is not news to anyone. Spoil alert, I probably should have given that away. But our English Bible is a translation. It has come from the original Hebrew text. So my friends, I'm going to let you in on just a little minister's secret. When you can't figure out what the text is saying in English, it can often help to go back to the original language. Go find a Hebrew dictionary if you're in the Old Testament, or a Greek dictionary if you're in the New. This, of course, doesn't always bring clarity, immediate clarity, to every challenging scripture passage, but it is one of the places that I love to start. And when we go to the Hebrew dictionary for our passage this morning and look up the word translated day, we learn that that word can be translated in more than just day. It can also be translated as a period of time. The translator has chosen, I think, the word day because I think it is more poetical in the repetition through each period of time. But if we think about it, the biblical author seems to simply be wanting to describe the creative activities that took place over periods of time. The biblical author doesn't tell us how long those periods of time are. 24 hours, millions of years, and somehow that doesn't seem to be the author's point. For me, going back and finding out that day can be something more than 24 hours allows me to hold the question about creation in a different way. Now, to me, one of the beautiful features of the reading this morning is the invitation and the responsibility that humanity is given regarding the earth. Our modern ears can hear the word dominion as dominate. However, if we go back to the original Hebrew, right, we find out that the translation of dominion carries more of a sense of stewardship than domination. Humanity is asked to cultivate and to care for and to keep and even guard the earth. So from the get-go, it appears that humanity was encouraged to get out there and explore all that had been given in creation in order to care for it. And when I think about exploration, I think about science. Scientists have been some of the greatest explorers of God's creation. And some of that exploration has yielded remarkable things. I mean, who knew that exploring mold would give us our first antibiotic? Who knew that healing medicines were tucked inside tree bark, like aspirin in a willow tree, the anti-cancer drug Taxol in a yew tree? Who knew that salamanders and their incredible ability to regenerate limbs might lead scientists on a path to help do that for human beings? Now, there was a time in our human history when people of faith were some of the leaders in scientific discovery. Ministers and monks, priests and pastors often explored creation as an expression of their faith. And today we can still find numerous scientists who are Christian or people of faith, but for some reason a wedge appears to have grown between science and faith. And the wedge has become so great that science and religion seem to be regarded as enemies rather than the natural partners they once were. The scientist Albert Einstein once spoke about the relationship between science and religion, and he put it this way: science without religion is lame, and religion without science is blind. For Einstein, there was a mutuality between religion and science that was needed to support each other. Einstein seems to understand that faith can offer science a glimpse of who might be behind creation. And science provides people of faith an amazing array of ways to appreciate the marvels of God's creation. Now, I have to say, I'm a big fan of science, and I totally geek out on trying to learn about all the way that the world works. Or maybe I should say that I land in awe at the things that creation holds and that science has discovered. Now, I confess that I'm still trying to work out quantum physics, but I haven't given up yet. And I love what this might tell us about a God who can make all things new. I love the new research that's out on the brain that helps us understand that the brain has plasticity, that emotional wounds once laid down by trauma can be changed, can be healed. Wow, God, I just love that there's so many things in nature that can help us heal. Wow, God, I didn't know how many ways beauty could appear in a flower. Wow, God, when I see the details of a ladybug, maybe I can trust you to know all the details about me, too. I wonder if this sense of awe is the perspective that faith can bring to science. A scientist may delve into all the stages of the butterfly in order to learn how that metamorphosis happens. But a person of faith might simply watch a butterfly and be overcome by awe. Or maybe it's in watching that same butterfly that a person of faith may actually feel even spoken to by God about a transformation that they're experiencing. And they might be spiritually strengthened by what feels like a fleeting encounter. I've always loved the story of the Christian writer, Brother Lawrence, who was brought to faith when he saw an old oak tree standing bare of all its leaves in the wintertime. Brother Lawrence was overcome with awe at the thought that there was a creator who was going to bring that oak back to life again. Now, one of the gifts of this series is that it highlights the importance of questions, and it may also highlight the way that our questions can change over time. This morning's question is an example. I think I would have asked this question when I was younger. But now that I'm a little older, I might ask that question another way. I guess now would be a good time to come clean that I really am not a fan of this morning's question. And it's not because it's a question about science, and it's not because there's controversy built in. I don't like the question because I think there is some bias built in to the question. Did you hear it? The question builds in an assumption that the Bible and science are at odds. Have we determined that yet? And they imply that science and faith are always at odds. Often the way that we ask our questions puts us on a path that is not as open as we would like. Questions without bias are hard to develop. So let's say I'm having trouble communicating with someone. If I pose the question, why don't we ever agree? I am loading that question with all kinds of bias. Could you hear it? Surely most people would agree that apples can be red, right? But it would be hard to react with anything but defensiveness when a question comes at us hard. How could I have asked that question that doesn't hold so much bias, that doesn't fence someone in? Maybe I could ask, how might we improve our communication so we can better understand the ways we disagree? One of the things that I love about science is that it teaches us to ask questions. But we have to acknowledge that sometimes science can ask bad questions too. And of course, the faith community is not immune from that either. There is a sad chapter in scientific history when the scientific community asked the wrong question. The question was, what makes people of color inferior? Do you hear the bias? Do you hear the conclusion that has already been drawn before they go and search? Unfortunately, the scientific community spent years trying to find data to prove that people of color are inferior. Data that never bore out. And along the way, scientists started developing theories about who is superior. And I don't think it will come as a surprise to you that the British scientists determined that white British people were superior to everyone. Thank you very much. And the German scientists, of course, concluded that the white Germans were superior to everyone. And then, again, it won't surprise you at the conclusions the American scientists reached, that indeed, the white Americans were the most superior. So needless to say, the science did not hold up over time. The problem was they began with the wrong question, because people of color are indeed not inferior, and the bias sent the scientists down a rabbit hole. And we can do the same, can't we? Sometimes we ask questions of the Bible that it is not simply designed to answer. In seminary, I was curious about what science had discovered about the Bible, and so I took a class in biblical archaeology. And then, I must say, it is so remarkable remarkable how much we have learned about biblical times through the science of archaeology. Of course, all of us students wanted to simply know, so tell us, has archaeology disproved anything? What's the scoop? And my professor answered by saying, so far, nothing has been disproved, but we're still holding questions. What a great place to be. I think of questions as a gift, and I don't think we have to be afraid of questions or afraid of what science might discover, as long as we are asking open questions. Questions, after all, are how we learn, how we frame things. We look in the Bible. Jesus is asking questions. God is asking questions. And in God, we have the very best teacher who helps us frame the questions and resolve them. The one who created all things, the one who is at work, who is still with us. In closing, I want to remind us that the Bible, is really an incredibly remarkable book. It was written over 1,500 years by human hands and yet is acknowledged to be the living word of the living God. It is both a simple book and a complicated book. It is made of different genres that can require different interpretations and readings. Ultimately, though, the Bible is a story. It's a miraculous story of a God's everlasting love and enduring faithfulness to what God created. The story tells us that the world was created in love, but that evil found an entry point. The story tells us, though, that God did not turn God's back on the world when evil came, but instead God remained faithful, joined us in the world, and pursued a path of redemption for humanity. Because that is what love does. Love pursues. Even if we have questions, love pursues. Especially if we have questions, love pursues. Even if things don't seem to match up, love pursues. Especially when things don't seem to match up, love pursues. Love pursues us all the way, wherever we are, until the very end of the story. Love will never let us go, because that is how love works.